Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Random Witchcraft. We are going to do the second part on Mabon, Fall Equinox, however you may call it again. This is going to go into some spells, some recipes, and some of the crafts that you can do, as a family. So I hope that your day has been well, and I hope that, your midweek is getting you through, and just look forward for that weekend. So, let's start with spells. Spells were just stuff that, they did amongst the celebration to improve, community harmony, find lost things that just, needed to be found, or just, you kind of just needed it because it was, important. And then there's, prosperity ones that they did. There's an old one they did for awakening the activist spirit within them. And then there's a mojo for wisdom spell. Let's start with that one. The mojo for wisdom spell addressed the necessary balance of what can make everything for right decision. In a small thing, you would gather in a black velvet drawstring, 5 acorns, 5 rose thorns. That's optional, but that's what you would get. An image of the person who represents wisdom to you, a small owl charm, a handful of sunflower seeds, and a 3-inch square aluminum foil. Sage essential oil diluted in olive oil or rue steeped sunflower oil. Place thorns if you have them, sunflower seeds, acorns, and aluminum foil, and say, "Herbs, I bless you, and waken the spirit, and waken the wisdom you have to share with me." Fold the aluminum packet and place it inside the drawstring, then say, "Guide me in wisest choice." Place the owl charm symbol in personal wisdom bag and say, "Help me see what I might miss. Question until I truly understand." And you place everything in a bag, tuck it, keep it in your pocket or your coat, or pin it to the back of your purse, and take it out once a week and re-anoint it with oil. That was just a way that they kept, wisdom and keeping yourself honest and making sure that you had everything on track. The other one that, probably a lot of us would, say, hey, we kind of need this a little more, a little community, harmony. That's just even in our own environment. You would end up needing you would need a drawstring. You would need to mix in a teaspoon of St. John's wort, juniper berry, Angela, clove, cedar chips, and mix together and chant. Cleanse all poison, close all wounds. All who breathe this come and consume. Be well, here we all dwell. In this sacred land, we all may excel. You would end up placing it all in your little bag, taking it with you, or making that little mixture into dry, how to call it, like potpourri, and put it in a shared gathering area. And it should help promote harmony within your space. And who doesn't need a little more harmony? Come on, the world's already crazy as it is. Now, to have a little community prosperity, so everybody in the household kind of, gets a little, what they need. You would need to get a part of 3 dried apricot ears and your favorite, this is your choice, your favorite type of prosperity herbs, which, bay leaf, just anything that you feel to add to this mixture. You would end up making it, putting it all together, say, "Goddess, come to all, good luck befall on us. Our new ways open, good things show, within without more treasures than ever before known." And this you would end up saying every morning when you pass by, again, another little bowl of potpourri essence type, and just continuing doing that way, just so you can end up having a little more prosperity, just because who doesn't want a little more prosperity in their life? We need that in abundance. Whether it be just the prosperity of having optimism or a little extra cash, we just need what we have to end up getting in our lives. Sometimes we don't even know what we need, and we just need to go with the flow, and it will come to us. Now, let's get into trying to find the lost item. All you'll need is your pendulum, if you have a little pendulum board, whether it, has the yes, no, maybe, you can use that. But you need to find a nice quiet space, set where you can end up concentrating and meditate for a quick bit, then getting a nice comfortable, pick up your pendulum, ask your question, and you'll end up getting, left for yes, right for no, clockwise is yes, counterclockwise is no. Then you ask your question whether, did I lose this somewhere else? Is it still in my house? And then you go room by room asking, whether it's in this room, whether, did I lose it in the living room? It will say yes, no, or spirits will guide you to it. And hopefully the fairies will let you end up getting it back. But it is a good spell to have. And actually, it's a real good spell to do in general. Now, this is one that they did, talking about the old ways, was the corn dolly magic. Corn dolly magic was something that they did because they ended up carrying this effigy around for a while. They would end up dressing up the doll with, clothes, little miniature clothes that they did for the effigy, that they would end up soaking in, honey, beer sometimes. They would end up boiling it in apple when they're making, go to add some of the apple cider just to, stiffen the material up. But it would carry all these essentials, all these good, essentials into the fabric that they would dress the corn dolly in, that they would end up asking, the harvest queen to carry around and to carry to the feasts, that way that they not only appease the harvest spirit, but to end up asking them to give them good luck and to make sure that their next harvest would be bountiful. And the harvest queen's family that would end up, taking the effigy for the year until they burned it and created a new dolly, they would make sure that the family was blessed and they prospered for the coming up year. And it was really an honor for them to house the harvest spirit for the year. Now, these are a couple of charms that you should do while during the harvest and after winter, just so they can end up keeping bad omens away from the house. Because if you didn't, it kind of would say that you'd go through your supply a little too quickly for the winter time till spring came around. So one would be they would end up putting a glass of water right near the front door. Now, because everyone associates water with a cleanse, a new beginning, it rinses away the harm. It rinses away. It's clean. It's pure. It's just really nice to end up starting afresh and new. So what they believed was that putting a glass of water right by the front door, it would cleanse whoever came in with bad intentions, or if they even tried to coming in with the intention of stealing some of your grain or your pickled jars, they would just stop them from trying to do that. Another one that is a very old thing was the horseshoe charm. The horseshoe charm was that keeping it above the door would end up catching all the good luck if you have it upside looking like a little pot, or if you want to end up trapping, or if you want to give luck to people, you put the horseshoe, downward, giving out your luck to, your guests, gracing them with a little prosperity when they leave. So, depending on the person and, how they feel, most people keep their horseshoe right, keeping it looking like a little pot. They would decorate it with, ribbons, colors of prosperity, colors of just adding things that the family would need. They would add, they would tie some of the grain to the horseshoe, just depending on how you want it and what you wanted it to represent. And they would hang this over, and if they wanted to give their guests, because their guests had brought stuff to share with them because they were running low, the head of the house would go and turn the horseshoe downward to let the head of the household, the one that came and visited, to walk under first, so they granted them a little luck on the way because they bestowed some of their luck onto the family that they came to visit. Another tradition that was something that started during Mabon was the daisy divination room. Yes, we all giggle and laugh and say, oh, it's the he loves me not. Originally, it was used to ask whether or not you were going to end up having a prosperous winter, which meaning that nobody was going to get sick, nobody was going to fall into harm, or you weren't going to run out beforehand. And it had to be a daisy grown from your yard. You cannot, go pick it out of someone else's yard and ask your questions. Because a stolen daisy is actually an omen of bad luck. That's why it had to be from your yard. Now, we're going to get into a bit of recipes. Who doesn't love a good recipe? I'm just saying. Nom nom nom. Food. And if you're a Taurus, you know what I mean. Lovers of food. One of the major things that they would have and constantly make during the harvest for producing would be harvest bread. Who doesn't love a good nice piece of bread? You would need a 3/4 cup of warm water, 1 package of active dry yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of vegetable shortening, 1/2 cup of milk, 3 heaping cups of all-purpose flour, and 1 softened butter. And preheat your oven to 375. Or according to your oven manufacturer. Well, let's be honest. In large bowl, add the warm water, slowly add the dry yeast, and continue until the yeast dissolves. Add salt, sugar, shortening, milk into the bowl. Stir well. Mix 2 cups of flours. Add, if needed, add more flour and 1 tablespoon at a time until the dough chases the spoon around the bowl. Necessarily, you don't have to use all 3 cups of flour, but you may. You would end up putting your dough off to the side, let it rise till it doubles in size. Come back, and you can just slap this on a cookie sheet. Rough dough. That's how they did it. They didn't form it into a bread shape. And form the dough into a loaf. Set it on a buttered pan and cook it for 45 minutes until golden brown. Let it cool off on a drying rack or a clean dish towel. Cut, serve, jam, a little honey. You got golden. Now, this is a Polish Mabon recipe, which is honey-eyed cucumber. I know, right? Cucumber? And it was a traditional dish taken to the harvest festival. Now, all you need is a cucumber, honey, or maple syrup, and salt is optional. Salt because it brings out the sweetness in the honey or maple syrup. Now I know why they ended up, when they tell you to cut the ends off the cucumber and rub the ends on it, because the white milky substance that comes out when you're rubbing the end of where you cut eliminates the bitterness in the rest of the cucumber. But you end up peeling, cutting the ends off, rubbing the ends of where you just cut with the end that you just cut, and reduces the bitterness on both ends. Rinse off the cucumber and discard the sliced ends. Cut the cucumber into spears, drizzle the honey on top or maple syrup for vegans, and add a pinch of salt to desired and serve immediately. It was just kind of like a little dip and serve type deal. Now, another thing that would be something that everyone knows how to make and really doesn't need the recipe, but if you don't know the recipe for green bean casserole, here it is. The ingredients you'll need is 1 pound of green beans, a can of tomato soup or unflavored sweetened yogurt, dairy or soy, whichever one you, a tablespoon of horseradish, a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, or like I would call it, Worcestershire sauce, a 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1 clove minced, one clove of minced garlic, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, and 1 cup of ground almonds. Keep out the ground almonds if you have a nut allergy. Preheat your oven to 350. Wash and trim the stems off your green beans. Place in the greased 8x8 2-inch baking dish. In a medium bowl, mix your cream of tomato soup, your horseradish, Worcestershire sauce, salt, minced garlic, and paprika. Pour over the beans and bake. Cover it for an hour. Remove and stir. Then add almonds or not, depending on your nut allergy, and serve piping hot at your harvest feast. Now, another thing that you may not really think it's part of the harvest tradition here is bean chili. Who doesn't love a nice little, cup of chili with some cornbread? And you would need is 1/4 cup of olive oil, 2 cups of chopped onions, 6 garlic cloves chopped. You can save time by purchasing, the chopped one, but 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, 1.5 teaspoons of cayenne pepper, optional for those who really like it hot, and can add more. 3 15 to 16 ounce cans of black beans, strained, and 1.5 cups reserved of the liquid in them, and a 16 ounce can of tomato sauce. This is a easy bean chili that you can end up leaving on your crock pot and put it on low, and by the time that you get home, some nice yummy bean chili. Now, an easy one, because we are all going to end up doing, is going and picking some apples, is baked apples. Easy peasy. Cut your apple in half, core it out. You add 1 tablespoon of raisins, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup or honey, depending on how you want it, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. After coring out your apples, clean them off. Add a little, make sure you pat them dry just a little. You set your apples on your cookie sheet under parchment paper. You set your raisins in the middle. You can even you can go wild with this. Make it your own recipe. This is just simple basic. You end up drizzling your maple syrup or honey over the apples, and you add your cinnamon. You stick them in the oven at 325 for about 20 minutes, or until you got a nice little caramelized crust from the honey or maple syrup on top. Pull them out. You can end up plating it in a bowl, putting a nice heaping scoop of vanilla ice cream, and yummy fall treat. And also, because we're going to end up having a plethora of apples, you can make apple chips. You take 6 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar and 2 of your biggest apples. Preheat your oven to 225. Line with baking sheets, parchment, on your cookie sheet. Cut your apples thin. Dip them into the confectioner's sugar. Place them on the parchment sheet. You're going to end up having these confection sugared, thinly sliced apples in the oven for 2 hours and 25 minutes, or until all the slices are a pale golden brown or crisp immediately, however you feel like, But honestly, if you cut down the confectioner's sugar and just do it by itself with no confectioner's sugar, probably a lot more healthier snack. Now, let's get into some of the crafts that they would be having. Now, some of the crafts that they would be doing is crop art. They would end up using some of the seeds that come off of the apples, the pumpkins, and some of the grain, that they would have to end up creating beautiful works of art. Another one would be scarecrow effigies. The scarecrows that most people find scary, but they would actually end up being the ones that not only that they would get ready to make a new scarecrow for the next time that they plant something in their farm, but it also was a effigy that protected the land. Hence the reason why a lot of people get afraid of scarecrows, because there were spirits that they asked to come and protect the land. And another one would, be another craft that you can do is your Mabon oil. Now, this Mabon oil can be used to anoint your Sabbath candles, bless small effigies, or used to be your part of your daily affirmations to help give you the strength to continue going through the day. Now, you would need is a tablespoon of sunflower oil, a pinch of white sage leaves, a pinch of rosemary leaves, and a few apple seeds. Now, you combine this in a glass jar or vial and leave the jar in the sun for 2 to 3 days. After that, you're able to anoint this behind your ears as you're saying your affirmations, or bless any small effigies that you're putting on your altar, or bless even your home, depending on how you want to use it, but it's just a nice little blessing oil that you can make. Now, this one is a craft that you can do that is a Mabon bath. It's a ritual that basically helps you cleanse away all the old. You're going to need for this is a large tablespoon of sage, a tablespoon of rosemary, a tablespoon of chamomile, or as I like to call it, chamomile, a cheesecloth, 1/2 cup of sea salt, a tablespoon of baking soda, sandalwood essence oil. Now, you would end up putting all of these, the sage, the rosemary, the chamomile, or chamomile, however you want to say it, and baking soda into the cheesecloth and the sea salt, and put it in there. Start getting your nice hot bath ready. Tie the cheesecloth up. Dab it with a couple drops of the sandalwood oil and toss into your bath. Basically, you're just making a big old tea bag for your bath. And slide in, take your bath, but as you're taking your bath, remind yourself that all of the bad, all of the negativity is washing away, and just let yourself come anew. Now, this would be a fun little thing for the kiddos to do with, or just even as an adult, like doing a craft. It's leaf candle holders. You would take a mason jar, craft glue, any dried autumn leaves, or essentially even the ones that you can get from the Dollar Tree where they have the, fake flowers. You can use those. The goal is you end up painting a nice thick, floppy layer of craft glue on the mason jar, add your leaf, add some more glue on top, and let it dry. And it can be, your mason jars can be ending up being either one, place card holder, you can write people's names on there and for your feast, or even just making small little, candle holders like it is, or depending on the mason jar, you can even making it into a vase or vase, however you like to say it. And another thing that is done, that's a craft that you can end up doing, and just because it'll help you, is a gratitude journal. A gratitude journal is something that is a modern thing now with families, is that you ended up starting with a blank, notebook, starting off with, you write everything that you're grateful for with your family, and then afterwards, you don't even write who's one that's grateful, you just write it as, I'm grateful for my family because of this, and then you write a special reason why you're grateful for each person. Then the next person, when they're not looking, ends up putting it on the next person's room or under their pillow to try to get them to write the next part of why are they grateful for this family. And it gives you an insight, because at the end, when the last person gets it, or how many people are in the family or in the household, the last person ends up leaving it in a common place so you all can read why each other's grateful for having each other. And just a little, recipes, little crafts, little things that we can do, spells. And I hope y'all having a good day. Can't wait for you guys to come and hear the next episode. Love you muchly. Bye.
Just one more thing before we sign off for the day. If you would like to send us any comments, concerns, or any questions, or if you would like to support this podcast, or for any future endeavors, click the links below. Thank you.